Hi, my name is Justine, and we are going to discuss here about congruent triangles. So we're going to just talk about triangles and how we can prove that they are congruent. So first of all, let's talk about what congruent means. Congruent means same size, same shape. So same size, same shape. If two figures are congruent, then they have the same size and same shape. So if I said that this triangle was congruent to this triangle, so this is triangle ABC is congruent to DEF. ABC, triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF, then I would know that they are the same size, same shape. Okay, and that's the congruent symbol, the equal with the little squiggly over it. Okay, so that's congruent. And then if two figures have the same size and same shape, they are congruent, so the converse of each other. So if two figures are congruent, they have the same size and shape. If the two figures have the same size and shape, and then they are congruent. And we talked about converses. If you don't know conditional statements, go back and watch that. Okay, so let's talk about what CPCTC stands for, because this is something that you will use in a ton of proofs. It means corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So let's talk about what corresponding parts are. So again, if I have triangle here, and I have a triangle here, I'm trying to make them as congruent as possible. A, B, C, D, E, F. So corresponding parts means they're in the same position. Okay, so AB, now all triangles are not turned the same. These are turned the same, so it makes it a little easier. AB corresponds to and is congruent to DE. BC is congruent to its corresponding part, EF. And AC is congruent to DF. If you notice, I also put the letters in the same order. If I say AC first, then I say DF. And then also their angles have to be congruent as well, because corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So angle A has to be congruent to angle D, angle B has to be congruent to angle E, and angle C has to be congruent to angle F. And that is corresponding parts of congruent triangles. And if all 6 of these things are done, then we know that these triangles are congruent. Let's also talk about congruency marks. If I say A, B, and D, E are congruent, they would each have one congruency mark. Now, I can't put one congruency mark on this because that would mean all of those sides are congruent. But that's not true, so I'm going to put 2 congruency marks. And then on this side, put 3 congruency marks. So the ones that line up are the congruent parts. Same with angles. Angle A is congruent to angle D. Angle B, we would put 2, congruent to angle E. Then angle C, put 3, and so on. Okay? So those are what you call congruency marks. Okay, if I say that triangles are congruent, and I'm gonna try to do this. Okay, kind of. R, Y, A, N, S, U. Then I want to state, I'm stating that triangle SUN is congruent to triangle RAY. So I'm stating that. So if I know that they're congruent, I know that CPCTC is true. Congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So with that said, RA is congruent to SU. YN, not YN, YA is congruent to NU, and RY is congruent to SN. So corresponding parts of congruent triangles. And then the angles, Angle R is congruent to angle S. Angle A is congruent to angle U. And angle N is congruent to angle Y. And that is your introduction of congruent triangles. My dog is barking. Scared me to death. Bye, guys.